You know, that kind of statement that makes everyone stop and think, did he really just say that? Well, that's exactly what happened. Odafe Oweh, fresh off his trade from the Ravens, decided to speak his mind, and his words left a lot of people completely stunned. After years put his body on the line for Baltimore, he spoke with a level of honesty no one expected, and he didn't hold back. There was a message, some provocation, and a lot of feeling behind it. The tension was real, and what he said could completely change how fans viewed this trade. When Odafe Oweh got traded by the Ravens, he didn't give that standard speech full of thanks to the organization or I'll miss my teammates. Nothing like that. The moment he landed with the Chargers, he spoke with a raw honesty that caught everyone's attention. Oweh made it clear he needed something different, a new system, a new environment, a real chance to show what he's truly capable of on the field. It was like he was saying, I couldn't be myself in Baltimore. Those words say a lot about what he went through over the past few months. After being a first-round pick and having the best season of his career in 2023, Oweh expected to keep building on that success, but instead his role shrank. Fewer snaps, fewer opportunities, and the feeling that he was no longer part of the defensive plan. So when he talks about seeking a new system, the message is clear. He wanted a team that trusted him, that would let him play the way he knows he can. And the way he said it is worth noting. It wasn't angry, but that kind of frustration that comes from someone who tried everything and still wasn't heard. Oweh sounded more relieved than bitter. Someone finally able to breathe again. And when he said he's happy now, playing in Los Angeles, it's obvious this change isn't just professional, it's personal. He needed to leave to find himself again. Deep down, this shows a guy who still believes in his own talent. He's not just trying to prove something to others. He wants to prove to himself that he's still the dominant player who entered the NFL full of energy. And now, with the Chargers, he seems to have found that fire again. The way he expressed this shows a player not looking back with regret, but forward with determination. But even with his tone of relief, one phrase he dropped left a strong mark, and that's when the mood completely shifts. Because when Oweh mentioned animosity, the tone changed. That was the line that grabbed everyone's attention. I have a little animosity on my back. In other words, Oweh admitted he didn't leave Baltimore totally at peace. He carries a hint of resentment, a feeling that he was left behind even though he had the potential to give much more. And the interesting part? He didn't need to say outright that he was upset. That short, emotional line made it clear what was on his mind. That animosity isn't just about the trade itself, but everything leading up to it. A player coming off his best season, only to suddenly see his playing time drop nearly in half. Naturally, that creates frustration. Oweh felt he could still be a pillar of the defense, but instead became just another piece in the scheme. So when he talked about carrying that weight, it's about something deeper, the feeling of being forgotten by a team he thought still needed him. And the way he expresses it is what makes it even more compelling. It's not a wild rant, nor a direct attack on the franchise. It's subtle, human. He acknowledges he's trying to move on, but doesn't hide the wound. That honesty makes his words feel real, which is rare in the usual NFL soundbites. Oweh isn't throwing shade for the sake of it. He's just being truthful about what he felt. That honesty even creates a kind of empathy. You can imagine how hard it must be to dedicate 4 years to a team, deal with injuries, fight your way back, and then be traded like none of it mattered. That animosity he mentions could very well be the fuel that drives him in Los Angeles. He wants to prove the Ravens made a mistake letting him go. And that's exactly where his comments take another turn. Because right after admitting that, Oweh dropped a more direct critique about Baltimore's defensive system. When Oweh said he finally had the chance to show what couldn't really be shown in Baltimore, it was impossible not to notice a jab. He was talking about the Ravens scheme and how he felt he wasn't being used the right way. It was subtle, but powerful, showing that the problem wasn't effort. It was how he was being positioned within the defense. That line reveals a lot about what might have been happening behind the scenes. Baltimore's defense has always been known for intensity and tactical discipline, but also for being rigid. Not every player thrives in that kind of system. Oweh seems to feel like he was one of those cases, talented, explosive, but trapped in a role that limited his impact. And he made that clear without pointing fingers. By saying he can now show who he really is, Oa is sending a message both to the coaching staff and the fans who doubted him. He wants everyone to see that his dip in production wasn't by chance, and that perhaps Baltimore's context had more to do with it than his individual performance. That's a strong argument, especially coming from a player who just had a significant breakthrough the previous year. Those words put pressure on both sides. For the Ravens, it raises a question of whether they truly got the best out of Oa. For him, the challenge is to prove he was right, that the system, not him, was the problem. This tension creates a perfect storyline to follow all season, especially if Oa starts producing for Chargers. And that's where the next point comes in. Despite the hint of resentment, Oa also showed he's excited and motivated about his new chapter in Los Angeles.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video, but before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
After all the frustration built up in Baltimore, Oa finally seems to have found what he was looking for: peace and purpose. Among all his statements, one line stood out: "I'm happy now." It may sound simple, but it's loaded with meaning. It shows he truly felt the weight of his previous situation, and now, with the Chargers, feels valued and ready to start fresh. The Los Angeles environment seems to have done wonders for him. Oa spoke with energy, that spark of someone eager to prove themselves. It's like all the frustration turned into motivation, and it's easy to see how this can affect his play. A confident pass rusher is a completely different beast than one who feels restricted, and Oa sounds like he can finally play freely, without looking over his shoulder every snap. His words also show maturity that comes with experience. He didn't use interviews to attack anyone. He expressed gratitude for the new chapter. At the same time, there's that subtle edge, like he's saying, "Now you're going to see what I can do." That mindset drives players who feel underestimated to levels they wouldn't otherwise reach. This mix of relief and focus can be dangerous for opponents. Oa looks ready to turn every game into a statement. Surrounded by coaches who trust his potential, and away from the constant comparisons and pressure he had in Baltimore, this new energy might be exactly what he needed to take the leap he's been chasing since the 2021 draft. But even with this new start, one thing can't be ignored: Oa still carries a sense of revenge. And that's exactly what sets up the next chapter of his story. Oa may be smiling in Los Angeles, but his words make it clear he hasn't forgotten Baltimore. Everything he said, from the animosity to feeling misused, shows he's entering this new phase with something to prove. This isn't just about playing well. It's about showing the Ravens they made a mistake. And that mindset can create dangerous players. Now he has a chance to turn frustration into performance. Every sack, every big hit he makes of the Chargers will be an indirect response. And the best part? He doesn't need to say a word. The field will speak for him. When that motivation is channeled the right way, it can turn a good player into a star. At the same time, his story is a reminder of how much environment can shape a player's career. In Baltimore, he was limited by a rigid system. In Los Angeles, he's an unleashed weapon with high upside. That change of context could make all the difference in his career. And of course, the storyline only grows if Oa starts producing at a high level. Every big play reignites the question: did the Ravens give up on him too soon? That tension between a player and his former team is the perfect fuel for an exciting season. Now it's all up to Oa to back it up on the field. But one thing is certain: he's not just changing teams. He's chasing redemption. And every snap in Chargers blue will keep this revenge story alive. At the end of the day, Odafe Owa's words revealed far more than just frustration. They revealed a player who still believes in his talent and wants to earn respect. He may have left Baltimore, but he left a clear message. He still has a lot to show, and he's going to do it on the field his way. The big question now is how this new chapter with the Chargers will define his career. Will Oa turn all this animosity into fuel to become the player he always believed he could be? Or will the Ravens end up proving they made the right call, letting him go? One thing is for sure: this story is far from over. And if what he said is any indication of what's coming, you better keep your eyes on him. Because Oa looks ready to prove Baltimore may have made a huge mistake.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself.